Okay, you should be away. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We go straight into this, Mandakini?
Yeah, the floor is yours, Maharaj.
No kirtan like that, no?
You want to do little kirtan? 2 minutes?
Okay.
You can.
We'll sing them all together. Not repeat. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Staya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Name Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Kacharine Nirvasesha Sunyavadi Astachare Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadidi Gaurabhakta Vrindam Bolo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadidi Gaurabhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Go Premanandi Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakota Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai Namayagya Ki Jai Shri Shri Panchatattva Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai Agoda Premanandi, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminti Namai. Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nevasesha Sanyavari Pastichare Shatani. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shvayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Shvapadantikam. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Well, Hare Krishna, everybody. Good evening, or whatever time of day we have. I see Param, Anuradha is with us from Param, and the devotees in the Param Yatra. I don't know what year it was, she'll know, but I did visit Omsk one time. It would be a long time ago, right, Anuradha? I don't know how long, maybe 18, 20 years ago. I cannot remember, but a long time ago, I had the privilege of visiting Omsk. Sikshastakam Prabhu was organizing my journey around various cities in Russia, like Nizhny Tagil, I never forget Nizhny Tagil, and Omsk and Tyumen and Kurgan, Chelyabinsk, Ikzhevsk, Perm, Ekaterinburg, different cities there in the Ural district of Russia and some parts of Siberia. And I've never been back since. But we're fortunate to be getting association with the wonderful devotees there from time to time. Beloved Mandakini arranges that I get your association in the Russian state with the devotees there. So thank you. And today we're privileged to try to remember, speak a little bit about the chanting of japa, something which is fundamental throughout our whole movement. Doesn't matter where we are, who we are, initiated, not initiated, who we're initiated by, and so on. The chanting of japa is an activity which goes on everywhere, and not only in what we say our movement, but amongst all Gaudiya Vaishnavas, as an essential part of our sadhana, to such an extent that Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport, of all the regulated principles, the most essential is to chant 16 rounds of japa daily, at least, of course. It's a foundation activity. It's an activity which we've noticed in our own lives, in the lives of others, that sometimes it goes on kind of automatic. It becomes a little mechanical, or not so much seriousness is placed to it in terms of doing it, yes, but in terms of cultivating our relationship with Krishna. Devotional service, particularly through the process of chanting, kirtan, japa, bhajan, is to cultivate our relationship with Krishna. This is what we've forgotten. Remembrance means to remind. So to remind us of our relationship, the primary activity is chanting. That chanting, we can chant in any situation, but particularly the relationship is awoken in the association of devotees. This is generally the process. because it's not just an impersonal relationship. It's not a forced relationship. It's not an institutional relationship. It's a constitutional relationship. And to awaken that constitutional relationship, we need the association of advanced Vaishnavas. Ultimately, we need the association of pure devotees. So Srila Prabhupada and many other great devotees have kindly come into this world to give that association. And as we know, there are several references to the verse in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think it's in the prayers of Lord Brahma, where it is explained that they bring the boat to take us back to Godhead. And the boat is so wonderful. It's not like the mundane boat. This boat of devotional service, everyone can get on board that boat. And the beauty or the good fortune is that they leave the boat behind when they seem to disappear. They leave it here, and anyone can still get on it. But there is a ticket. There's a price to get on that boat. And that price, sometimes we hear from Nityananda Prabhu, that price is one's faith. And faith is developed in the association of devotees. And the holy Dham, you see Govardhan Hill there. This is not, I'm not actually sitting in Vrindavan under Govardhan Hill. This is just a background. But it reminds us of the holy Dham, associating with the holy Dham, with the deities, with the devotees, different ways that we can be reminded of Krishna, the Shastras. So I'll begin now today. You've been having, I think, some sessions already on Harinam Chintamani maybe, and other aspects of cultivating the holy, or cultivating Shuddhanam, or whatever it may be. I don't know if Mahatma Prabhu has joined you. Did he join you? Put your thumb up if he joined you.
He joined 2 days ago.
He came 2 days ago. Wonderful. You were very fortunate. And I'm sure many other great souls. Valmiki Prabhu also, of course, is primarily here, taking us on this wonderful journey to develop our relationship, or reestablish our relationship with Krishna. So, okay, well, I'll try to discuss from a slightly, well, every angle. When Krishna is unlimited, and we see that Krishna is worshipped in different ways by different devotees. He's the same person, but we see different devotees glorifying him in different ways, seeing even the different forms which Krishna expands are worshipped, and they see him in different rasas, and just different. He's unlimited variety is there. So because the name Namachintamani, Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, is Krishna himself. Similarly, a relationship with the name, and let's say our experiences with the name may vary, and even, let's say, inspirations to become more related to the holy name will also vary according to our station, according to where we are in the ladder of devotional service. Within the material framework, we may be on different levels. So our relationship with the holy name may take on, you could say, different forms. And on the highest platform, it will depend upon our, you could say, our constitutional nature. The Sthayi Bhav may vary. We're not on that level, so we don't have to worry about that particularly. What we do have to worry about is what is relevant now that I can progress in my spiritual life, and to cultivate that relationship with the holy name or with Krishna. Now, initially, when I was asked first of all, at this point, I just like to ask, can our translator, is he okay with this? Can he keep up with this? Is it too fast or too unclear? Any comments, please? I don't know if there are any comments on this. I don't know where our translator is. Mandy, message can.
Maharaj, everything okay. This temp is okay.
It's okay.
Yes.
Oh, good. As long as we're not KO'd, as long as it's okay and not KO'd. KO'd in English means knocked out. Good. So we're good. Please, some or another get through to me if there's a problem. So I thought that this was a Bhagavad Gita class initially, and then Mandakini told me, no, we're concentrating on japa, on japa, whatever we want to call it, tattva or something, subjects related to chanting of japa. So I had an idea, which I'm not going to do today, but a little tiny bit of it I'll do, was to synthesize, bring together the teachings of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita with the yajna of japa. So there's one yajna sacrifice, because it is a sacrifice. It's not just a sacrifice of time. That may not be a problem for many of us. In fact, we may be kind of happy because we don't have to do any work during that time or whatever. But it's a deep sacrifice in our hearts, as we all know. It's not just a matter of doing it. It's a matter of relationship, cultivating relationship. And that requires sacrifice, giving up. The mind will come up with innumerable vrittis or thoughts, and we sometimes become captivated by those thoughts and drawn away from the yajna. Imagine if you're doing a fire yajna, Agnihotra, and your mind is wandering, and at the same time you're on the mobile phone sending text messages, the same time you're supposed to be performing a yajna. It will not work. It will be, neither will the audience be very impressed, to say the least. Or you've got your baby on your lap and you're fondling your baby or something. It will definitely not work. Or you're looking around at everything in the room and not concentrating. You have to concentrate. Imagine if you're in the kitchen cooking the lunch and you're all over the place. You can rest assured lunch will not be what it's supposed to be. So what to speak of the yajna, the greatest yajna, the Sankirtan yajna or the japa yajna, the chanting of the holy names, is the greatest yajna in this age of Kali, is the only way. This Kirtana Deva Krishnasya, the chanting of Krishna's names is the only way to counteract all of the ill effects of this iti shodashakam namnam kalikamashanashanam, the ill effects of this age. And our mind is wandering everywhere. Yajna Sankirtanam prayer. We're supposed to be performing this yajna. Where our japa is, generally speaking, vachika. Vachika is not usually applied to japa. Vachika is usually the process of kirtan. Generally, japa is manisik. It's usually in the mind, most upangshu, very silent. But in our line, particularly, it's mostly vachika, partly because of the influence of Kali Yuga and our disturbed or unsteady minds. They need to hear that sound vibration. So let's see what Krishna says. And this is the 10th canto, 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Maharshinam Triguruham Giram Asmekam Aksharam Yagyanam Japa Yagyosmi Stavaranam Himalaya. So Krishna is explaining his opulences. And even in Bhagavad Gita, 5,000 years ago, Krishna says of the great sages, I am Bhrigu. Of vibrations, I am the transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am the chanting of the holy names, Japa, Japa Yajna, Yajna sacrifice. and of immovable things I am the Himalayas. So this verse does indicate Japa Yajna. And in the 4th chapter, Krishna explains one of those two-liners, Nayam lokas javagyasya kutonya kuru sattama. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? We can never be happy. Why? Because sacrifice means, in this case, Yajna Vishnu is to satisfy Vishnu. It's not just to satisfy our material desires or to achieve a material objective. This particular sacrifice is wholly and solely meant for the pleasure of Krishna. There may be some side effects or secondary aspects to become freed of material entanglement, to purify our hearts and so on, to become steady and so many different things in our chanting. But all that is not constitutional necessarily. It's because we're in relationship with the material energy, and therefore we have to change of heart has to take place. So that change of heart is, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, according to our Srila Prabhupada, according to all of our acharyas, the primary renovation of our consciousness is affected by the chanting of the holy names. And they have given us this. At this time, it may be a duty. If Prabhupada had said chant 4 rounds, we would chant 4 rounds. If he said 32, we would have tried. As Prabhupada did say chant 32, but the devotees couldn't do it, so he gave the 16. But that is a minimum. And it is not a sign that we're necessarily chanting with high quality if we stick to 16 for our whole lives, and that's it. Of course, that's a great achievement. It's incredible, in fact. But we're here later on that if we're actually progressing, we won't want to keep it at 16. So anyway, we have this clear directive from Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, that chanting the holy name is the only way. You can chant day and night. You can chant anywhere you like. But chanting is the main process. And how? Now, we hear techniques of chanting, some of them external, some of them on the physical platform, some of them on the environmental platform, some of them on the mental platform, some of them on the intellectual platform, and some of them on the spiritual platform. They all have their relevance. Spiritual platform, maybe we could say, would be to associate with transcendentalists, to hear about the glories of holy name from pure devotees of the Lord, to chant various transcendental prayers given to us by the great devotees to chant, to evoke the good consciousness, to serve the holy name and chant attentively or chant with feeling, reminding us of the nature of the holy name and the absolute importance of this activity, and so on and so forth. And that may be linked up to the intellectual platform too, in terms of, you could say, Sambandha Gyan, trying to logically and philosophically understand this nature and importance of chanting, and on the mental platform to try to bring our minds around towards the holy name, and on the physical platform, not being too tired, not having overeaten, being clean, and then on the environmental platform, being in a nice place, perhaps surrounded by pictures of the Lord or in a temple. They're all connected, but as much as possible, we try to work on all of these platforms because we are covered on all levels with various degrees of lust, or we could say material impediments, or material contamination is there on all levels. So we have to clean on all levels. This is a cleansing process, but the center point is the chanting of the holy name. And whatever sadhana we do, whatever environmental adjustments we do, whatever institutional arrangements we make, etc., are all for this purpose, to help awaken our relationship with Krishna, which means in this Kali Yuga, our relationship with the holy name. So now I'm going to read something from Srila Prabhupada. I'm going to take one angle today, which is pretty much relevant at every stage. It's not a fine detail. It's an essential aspect of our relationship with the holy name, which can be applied at every stage of our devotional service. On the realized platform, it is natural, it is constitutional. On our stage, it may be theoretically understood, but to actually experience or to cultivate this particular attitude, to awaken this attitude in relationship to the holy name, is also very connected to what we do, who we associate with, and the environment which we're in, and everything else which we mentioned just now. So Prabhupada, this is from a purport in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya-lila, 4th chapter, text number 71, if you want to follow. And this is the point which I'm going to go along. By humility and meekness. So these two words are the two words which I'm going to try to share a little bit. By humility and meekness, one attracts the attention of Krishna. As you may know, Prabhupada said on several occasions, don't try to see Krishna. Act in a way that Krishna will see you. They're related, humility and meekness. And if we meditate on this, I'm sure it will resonate in our hearts in so many different ways. That is the verdict of all the Vedas. In the Bible, I think it says only the gentle and meek shall enter the kingdom of God, or something like that. Yes, but we have to understand a little bit more about the realistic meaning of humility and meekness. Therefore, Prabhupada says, if one becomes very humble and meek, he can easily attain the lotus feet of Krishna in this age of Kali. It's not just any age, of course, but particularly in Kali Yuga. The tendency in Kali Yuga is that we all become overwhelmed. Even a pauper is proud of his penny, so they say, by our pride. Pride manifests in so many ways. It's not just, standing up there and being arrogant or something, showing off. It manifests in so many different ways in our lives. We're proud of what we think we know and who we think we are, and so many things. That is the fulfillment, Prabhupada goes on. That is the fulfillment of all great sacrifices. That's what you could say, to attract Krishna, or the attention of Krishna, that's the point. But this is the fulfillment of all great sacrifices, penances, and austerities when one achieves ecstatic love of God. So that's the fruit of our sacrifice, penance, and austerity. And as you know, in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that acts of sacrifice, penance, and charity should never be given up. And this act, particularly chanting japa, is a sacrifice. We should never, is not given up. The fruit of it is not so much moving on to another plane, but it's actually moving deeper onto the plane of the holy name and having in our heart the awakening of ecstatic love of God. He attains the complete perfection of life. Therefore, whatever one does in executing devotional service must be accompanied by the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. So it seems tantamount or essential for our growth, not just to take into account the mechanics, but our approach or our attitude in chanting the holy name. And it's not just when we chant the holy name. Just like when we die, when this body dies, it's not just at that moment we suddenly take it seriously. I will think of Krishna when I die. It doesn't usually work like that. It's our practice throughout the life. that develops various impressions in our hearts. And those impressions manifest at the time when we leave this body. So if we're not developing impressions of Krishna, even if it's not with full awakened realization or relationship, nonetheless, those impressions will carry us forward at the time of death. So similarly, when we chant the holy name in japa, generally speaking, most devotees in this movement aim to complete 16 rounds. Some aim to complete more. Some fail to complete 16 rounds. And some go up and down. But generally speaking, we find that, I think if we look at our own hearts, most of us consider that our chanting could be improved. It's not of a high quality. So how to mature, how to develop, how to cultivate pure service to the Lord. It's related also. It's not just during the period of japa. Okay, we'll move on a little bit to another quote. Now, this quote is from the, let's see, Bhagavad Gita. So we've just, here Prabhupada mentions humility and meekness. Now, he mentions that. Sometimes he says other things, but this principle, humility and meekness, come up again and again and again in Prabhupada's statements. And they come up also in the most important accompanying verse to the holy name, a verse given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Sahishnuna, that one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind and a very tolerant state of mind also, not expecting any respect from others and giving all respect to others. This is the same principle as humility and meekness, as we'll continue a little bit to discuss. Very important. Otherwise, Krishna will not pay attention. If of course, there's something there, we're chanting, but unless we cultivate or understand this principle of humility and meekness, the heart may stay hard-hearted. Hard-hearted means remains covered with material conceptions, material attachments, material desires, etc. Still covered, even though we chant for a long time. The cultivation of the attitude in our service to japa is also very, very important. It's not everything, but it's essential. So let's see, Prabhupada here says, he gives a few definitions of humility and meekness. But I think it's quite valuable to reflect on what they mean. It can make a big, big difference in our chanting of the holy names if we understand a little bit of what this, practically speaking, attitude is. Humility means that one should not be anxious to have the satisfaction of being honored by others. Exactly what Lord Chaitanya says. The material conception of life makes us very eager to receive honor from others. But from the point of view of a man in perfect knowledge who knows that he is not this body, anything, honor or dishonor, pertaining to this body is useless. What's the use of it? It's not that a person is beautiful or ugly or knowledgeable or ignorant or, whatever it is. Even materially, when people say he's good, he's bad, these are all just modes of nature. They're external to the soul. The soul is none of those things. Soul is beyond all these temporary designations. And ultimately, it's useless. We're very attached to it. We like to get it, but it has no value in spiritual life. We can use it in Krishna service. One should not be hankering after this material deception. People are very anxious to be famous for their religion. We may be anxious to be famous in devotional line also, as a good person or as a effective person or whatever it may be, a devotee and so on. Consequently, sometimes it is found that without understanding the principles of religion, one enters into some group who is not actually following religious principles and then wants to advertise himself as a religious mentor. Somebody wants to become a leader and try to form their own group. Very common, even in Krishna consciousness, sometimes our own brew, our own brand of devotional service we get some followers. But Lord Chaitanya says, I don't want followers. I don't want wealth. I don't want women. You have no interest in these things. They're impediments if we do want them. Let's look at some other angles. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj says that it means we have to meditate. I am a particle of dust. Meekness, feeling oneself very, let's say, everyone else superior to myself. I am a particle of dust at the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Meditation. Of course, I mean, in one sense, materially speaking, that may not make much sense, but we know what it means. It means we are completely taking shelter, totally dependent on the instructions of my spiritual master. A firm faith in those instructions, at least we're acting on that principle. Let's look at some dictionary definitions. Meekness, for instance. Enduring injury with patience and without resentment. Interesting. No resentment. Why is this happening to me? And so on. Enduring injury can mean also many things. It's not just physical injury. It could be within our minds. It could be some kind of chastisement due to some karmic or Krishna's hand working to try to, maybe sometimes we don't see Krishna's hand working so easily. Sometimes we look at our own, say motivations and think that Krishna should fulfill them. But Krishna has another plan to release us of thinking that we can make it happen by mechanical execution. And then it doesn't happen and we feel somewhat frustrated. So we have to patiently carry on and without resentment. It can also mean being very gentle. Prabhupada said that Vaishnava is a gentleman. He's very gentle. He's not rough. And of course, we may be like that in the beginning. That's naturally understood. But there's a gradual process of awakening these qualities. Unassuming. He doesn't assume that he has, I'm this or that. Is not arrogant or prideful. These are some of the more relevant understandings of meek. And we can also see, and they're related. The two, humility and meekness, are often synonymous with each other. They're often taken as basically the same. So another aspect of the meaning is being very submissive, very soft. The heart of a devotee is very soft, which means very compassionate to all, not just those who have the same bodily designation as I do, or on the same level of advancement that I'm on, or whatever it is, or like things which I do, but the devotee's heart, a Vaishnava, like the Goswamis, they're equal to everyone, the ruffians and the gentle. So the devotee is always, his heart's very soft and naturally very gentle, dealing with people like a baby. You deal with a baby in a very gentle way, very fragile. So the devotees are like that with devotees according to their level. Peaceful, very peaceful, modest, very mild, patient, humble, long-suffering, compliant, unassuming, unpretentious, forbearing. And so these are just some dictionary definitions. And back to the Vaishnavas again, humility. One aspect of humility is a willingness to do menial services whenever possible. All this is related to our chanting of japa. I would like to read something from one of our wonderful Vaishnavas. His name is Varshan Swami. This was in his Vyasa Puja homage to Srila Prabhupada in 1913, I believe. And he was a bit of a farmer before he joined Krishna consciousness. So he likes to work on the land. So he's given an analogy aligned with his, you could say, experiences in farming, related also to chanting the holy names. Cultivating the field, we're talking about agricultural field, means, or now we're talking about our spiritual lives, means preparing the heart. Preparing it, just like when you grow a plant or a vegetable, we have to cultivate the soil. You have to know what to do, what type of soil is required. So we have to see how to cultivate the field of our hearts so that Krishna will be happy to reside there. Planting the seed, he says, means impregnating the fertile heart. So when the soil is made fertile, we impregnate the fertile heart with a bhakti lata bija. That we all probably understand. Humility, now he's taken a word very similar here. Humility means humus. Humus is like, fertile soil, basically. The word humus is not very much different than humility. It means humus, the fertile soil in which the seed can take root. So humility. In the soil of humility, the seed of bhakti, or of chanting the holy names, can take root. Root means it will go deep into the heart and cannot be moved. It's rooted. Otherwise, on the surface, it can easily be destroyed. You have to have strong roots. The necessary rains from the sky, that means, are the spiritual sacrifices we perform. Many types of sacrifices are there in the performance of Sankirtan. These are like the necessary rains to help the plant to grow, or the awakening of deep humility. And the wind whispering through the growing vines is the breath of life, the holy name, bringing life to everything. The harvest festival is the coming together to share the fruits in the spirit of Nam Sankirtan. I just thought there's a nice analogy which Maharaj has shared with us there, relevant to us. And from Shruti Kirti, there's a nice quote. I think maybe not, maybe it is, I can't remember. One of Prabhupada's associates, and no, this is actually not Shruti Kirti, and this is from Hari Vilas Prabhu. I was well known to Mandakini. Hari Vilas Prabhu asked this question of Prabhupada in 1973 in Paris. It was, anyway, somewhere in Paris, he asked this question. And the question he asked to the Prabhupada, what does it mean to be humble? Prabhupada's answer was really incredible. Prabhupada said, humility means that you are convinced beyond any doubt there is nothing in this world, absolutely nothing in this world, not your money, not your family, not your fame, not your gun, not your education, nothing that will save you, except the mercy of Krishna. When you are convinced like this, then you are humble. Wouldn't maybe not quite what we hear in terms of a definition of humility, but this is a reality. We have no other shelter other than Krishna. Even in chanting the holy names, when we realize that there is no other way that we can become Krishna conscious other than the mercy of Krishna, and the mercy of Krishna's mercy or merciful form has descended as Nama Prabhu. And through the chant, we have no qualification to expect to attract Krishna's attention other than the performance of Nam Yogya, chanting the holy names. Interesting. Because this holy name is not produced on the material plane. We may be able to mechanically chant, which is good, and we should, but the name itself is not. We hear many times, we hear Golokara Prema Dhamma Harinama Sankirtan. The holy name has come from the spiritual world. It's not of this world. And we have to, if we want to go to the spiritual world, we have to take hold of that transcendental sound vibration or sound form of the Lord. The spiritual sound has come into this plane. It's not created from the material plane like most vibrations. He can come down. Krishna can come down as easy as any time he wants. We know that. But is it easy for us to go up? Not so easy. It's not easy. A holy name is only realized when we approach him with a very intense serving attitude. Now this brings in the other aspect of humility, submissive serving attitude. As we see in Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidi Pranipatina Pariprashnena Seva. Krishna says we should approach the spiritual master, inquire submissively, render service. This is essential. And then by their grace, we'll be given instructions. We've been given the instruction to chant japa, essential service. One should therefore be encouraged to develop his service attitude toward the Lord, because this will help him to chant without any offense. And so, under the guidance of the spiritual master, the disciple is trained to render service and at the same time chant the Hare Krishna mantra. They both must go together. The attitude is developed, the favorable attitude, through menial, submissive service under the direction of the spiritual master, so that we can actually, and we do carry on chanting, even though we may not have that service attitude fully developed, but we carry on chanting and serving. And then as soon as one develops his spontaneous service attitude, he can immediately understand the transcendental nature of the holy names of the Maha Mantra. This is very, very important. This is from the Nectar of Devotion. It's not just an intellectual analysis. It's not just some sentiment. It's a reality. Spontaneous service attitude. When we can understand, and when one understands the transcendental nature of the holy name of the Maha Mantra, then we may start to have the proper relationship with the holy name. Prabhupada says in the next lecture in Vrindavan, also on the Nectar of Devotion in 72, how much respectful we shall be immediately when we have this proper attitude towards the holy name, or this understanding of our relationship with the holy name. How respectful immediately. You know, it's just like if we go into the presence of somebody who's held to be a very important person, or somebody in our lives who's very important, how respectful, how attentive, how careful we shall be. Yet when we come into the presence of Krishna, Radha and Krishna in the form of the Maha Mantras, sometimes we're in another world. We're not even conscious of their presence. It's just mechanical sometimes. Because we're still thinking we have some other important business on there to think about. There's nothing else of importance in all the 14 worlds. Bhaktivinoda sings in one of his famous songs, was it in that song Udilo Arana? Krishna nam shura koryo panjurayo bhakati vinoda pran nama vinaki chu naiko ara chaura bhuvana maje. Nothing in all the 14 worlds to be had but the holy name. There's nothing of any value. As we just heard, this is the most valuable thing. How fortunate we are to receive this most valuable, we can't say thing, this most valuable opportunity. The association of the Maha Mantra, and we're thinking of something else. We're thinking something else is more important. It's most unfortunate. We're most fortunate and unfortunate simultaneously. And Ekbar Namrase Mature, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings, just once, relish, put aside all these other things. Just let go and just associate with the holy name. But how to do that? It's not so easy. Service attitude is essential. Prabhupada says, therefore we should be very much cautious. Otherwise there's an offense if we don't show proper respect. Well, let's see, time is short. I'm going to move on a little bit. Sometimes we also hear the quality in chanting, not just chant 16 rounds, but some devotees even say, well, what's the point of chanting? There's no quality. Better to chant one round with quality. Sometimes we hear things like this, but not from Prabhupada. I never heard Prabhupada say it, never read Prabhupada say that. So let's see something that Prabhupada said. Okay. It's a conversation in Nairobi. Brahmananda is not asking the question. He's repeating a devotee's question. He was asking about what is the quality. So he said, the quality, Prabhupada, he's asking about the quality. How can we make the quality of the best while chanting? Prabhupada said, quality, you will understand. First of all, come to the quantity. Without having quantity, how will he understand the quality? You follow the instruction of your spiritual master, of the Shastra. That is your duty. Quality, no quality. It is not your position to understand. When the quality comes, there is no force. So Prabhupada is saying the real quality is not mechanical. It's an awakening within our hearts, the relationship. You will have a taste. You know, it's when you're with somebody you really like, something you really like, some food you really like. Oh, you have a nice taste. So similarly, when that awakens in our relationship with the holy name, you will have a taste for chanting. Everything is really, in one sense, is to awaken this taste. This taste, this ruchi. And then a Shakti and Bhav and so on come, but the taste in chanting. But because of anarthas and offenses, we have no taste, Lord Chaitanya says. That's like another aspect which we won't have time to mention. It is not by force. You will not do it. No, you won't do it by force. We will have a taste. You will desire at that time. Why 16 rounds? Why not 16,000 rounds? Therefore, at least, Prabhupada says, at least 16 rounds. But when you come to the quality, you'll feel yourself. Why 16? No, 16,000. I never stop. That is quality automatic. He could, Prabhupada then goes on, gives another example, because he mentioned Haridas, but up to the end of life, I shall go on. Just like Haridas said, I will never stop chanting. You could beat me, cut me to pieces, do what you like, but I will never stop chanting. It's not a material thing. That is quality. Have you got such tendency? You will go on chanting and nothing else, nothing to do. One time Prabhupada said, because you can't do it, therefore I have to give you so many other activities to keep you busy. Otherwise, Kirtaniya Sadahari, always chanting. That is quality. Now you are forced to do. Where's the question of quality? We sometimes think quality, because that's a part of the environment, it's a part of the mental adjustment, it's a part of the physical adjustment, intellectual adjustment, and application of spiritual truth in our lives. But ultimately, the quality is not something imposed. Nitya Siddha Krishna praying, Sajakavanai Shudachiti Kari Udai. The love of God is in the heart, is awoken by Shravananadi, by the pure practice of hearing and chanting. It's awoken. It's already there. It just has to be woken up. The love of God is already there. It's not from something gained from an external source. The practices of our sadhana are to help awakening this taste for chanting. This is given a chance so that one day you may come to the quality, not that you have come to the quality. One day we may come. So the whole process of serving under the lotus feet of the pure devotees of the Lord is the process when you will feel so much ecstasy in chanting Hare Krishna. That is quality, not artificially. Chant, chant, otherwise get out. That is not quality. This is an expectation that someday you may come to quality. That requires time. That requires sincerity. Shravananadi Shuddha, we mentioned Shuddha Chitti Kari Udai. Yes, it will be awakened, not by force. Naturally, it will awaken. Because quality means love, loving relationship with Krishna. At our stage, we may say quality is that we're trying to put aside the time nicely, trying to develop a service attitude, trying to, hear the sound of the holy name, and so on. Just like love between two persons, it cannot be forced. It awakens. It takes time. And Prabhupada gives the example like a child. Young girls in India used to be married when they were something between the ages of 5 and 11. And after 11, it's too old because they reach puberty. So they married earlier so that they don't get any kind of, disturbance or, suffer from wondering who will they get, who will be my husband, and so on. They don't have to think about it. They simply cultivate the service attitude towards whoever is their husband. And when the time comes right, they naturally feel love for him. So that's a simple example Prabhupada gives. And this again is emphasized by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. As Prabhupada said, that those who are not interested. Where's that verse gone? There's another quote from the Nectar of Devotion. Those who are not inclined to change the heart, in other words, we're still attached to things, must cultivate the service attitude in our devotional service, so that gradually, we will see Krishna in the center. We should also remember, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says, we should also remember we cannot possibly learn to chant if we do not offer sincere and loving service to our spiritual master, who is the Acharya of the holy name. When, by serving Guru and Krishna, the heart becomes purified, the Lord's pure name will appear in the heart. Otherwise, we will continue to commit offenses against the holy name. In another place, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj says that service to the Vaishnavas and the Guru is the gateway to Shuddhanam. Why? Because it attracts the mercy of Krishna, and he awakens within our hearts, Shushrosha, Dadanasya, Vasudeva Kataruchi, Syanmahat Sevaya Vipra, Punyatirtha Nishevanat. He awakens within our hearts this attraction. Srinvatam Svakata Krishna. He cleanses our heart when he sees our service attitude, and thus the taste or the attraction to hear and chant awakens in our hearts. And well, we can finish off with two very interesting verses from very different directions. This one is from the Rigveda of all things, a fascinating verse from the Rigveda. Om asya jannato nam chid vivaktanas mahaste Vishnu samating bhajamahe. Om tat sat. I think you can understand that's probably from the Vedas. Just somehow or other, the construction of the words, it just naturally sounds Vedic. O Supreme Lord Vishnu, because they worship Vishnu, your sacred name is absolutely cognizant. It means it is complete, all pervasive, and all illuminating, because the entire Vedic scriptures emanated from him. Your name is the wellspring, supreme bliss. It means like a river comes from a spring. Your name is this, that's where supreme bliss comes from. Your name is the wellspring, the embodiment of Brahman, personification of Parabrahman. It is readily available and is full of transcendental knowledge. Everything is there in the holy name. You've invested all transcendental knowledge in your holy name. Everything is there. We meditate, the sages are saying, we meditate upon the purport of your name, discuss your name among ourselves, and chant your name continuously. In this way, we worship you. Some very nice points there. Meditate on the purport of your name. Discuss it amongst each other. Let's discuss the glories of the name. Let's discuss amongst each other how we can worship the holy name. People are doing this all the time for mundane things. We can do it with ourselves, like you're doing now with this japa retreat or japa treat. It should be a treat. By the end of the retreat, you should be tasting a treat. And it's very sweet. Taking shelter at Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet can't be beat as we chant the holy name. And then we can meet and whatever, Hare Krishna English. And this way, continuously, we worship you. And the final point I'm mentioning, little gem, this is from Harinam Chintamani, spoken by Haridas Thakur. Dasa paradayena hridayena pase kripakari mahaprabhu majinama rase. Prayer of Haridas, our Acharya, in chanting the name. Meditate on Haridas Thakur. Remember Haridas Thakur. By his mercy, we may progress in our Nam Yajna. O Mahaprabhu, please be merciful to me so that the 10 offenses never touch my heart. And I can always remain absorbed in the rasa, the taste of the holy name, always. Never attracted to any other taste, just the sweet taste of the holy name. And Prabhupada said, our only prayer should be, I haven't got it here, but he wrote a letter one time to Devananda Prabhu, one of his disciples, I think in 68, 69. Our only prayer should be, my dear Lord Krishna, please, please allow me that I never stop chanting. Please remind me to always chant your holy names, and that I never forget. You are sitting in my heart as a super soul. Please do not cause me to forget to chant, no matter whether I'm in heaven or in hell. Please always remind me to chant your holy name. So that little mood, just a little summary to develop humility and meekness in our approach for our relationship at this stage, which can be evoked by the mercy of the devotees by submissive service at their lotus feet. And this is the gateway to Shuddhanam, the natural, spontaneous awakening of loving affection for Nam, and automatically Rup, name, form, quality, and pastimes will automatically manifest. We don't have to superimpose them. They will come automatically. Okay, we'll finish there. It's now 55 minutes I've spoken. I haven't spoken exactly less than 55 minutes almost. So any questions are there? I will look on the chat and see. Chit chat, we have this saying in English called chit chat. That means just talking about something. And in spiritual life, chit means spiritual knowledge. So we're going to chat about spiritual knowledge, chit chat. So questions. Okay. Good. Well, I'd like to answer, but it's in Russian. I can't read it. Maybe our translator can, if he's there, can translate these comments into Russian, into English, if necessary.
Thank you so much for your so nice lecture, so enlightening and inspiring. Thank you so much.
Вы так замечательно раскрыли этот процесс.
You opened this process so vividly, and so many essential things we got from your speech that we should always this attitude of serving, and that Krishna never make us forget chanting his names. And I've been chanting 16 rounds for 10 years by now.
И сейчас, слушая вас, буквально локти кусаю, что вот этой лекции не было у меня раньше.
So I feel so feel pity that before I didn't listen to this lecture.
Вот. И для себя вот сейчас я уяснил, что есть несколько основных локомотивов или стимулов для мотивации.
So for myself, I understood that there are few motivations for chanting.
И хотелось бы спросить, что является наиболее таким главным для мотивации.
To ask what is the main motivation for chanting holy name. There are many motivations, but by your understanding, which one is the best motivation? For example,
установить именно отношения с самим святым именем.
Desire to have association or relationships with the holy name. This motivation,
то есть осознать личностную
to
природу.
realize his personality.
Или, допустим, вот как вы сказали, удобрять почву для того, чтобы зашла бхактивата биджа.
Or as you said, that cultivate field, soil for better plant growing.
И то, что Махамантра является звуком, который исходит из духовного мира.
Mahamantra is this spiritual vibration that is descending from spiritual world.
Вот столько всего, много аспектов.
So many aspects.
Хотелось бы уточнить, что является локомотивом.
And they wanted to know what is the central point or central main motivation for willing to chant.
Well, thank you very much, Prabhu. And thank you, Prabhu, for translating. If I get it right, the question is basically, what is the main motivation in chanting the Maha Mantra? Although there are many motivations, different motivations, what is the main one? Is that correct? Is that correct? I'm not answering, I'm just asking if I've got the question correct. Would you say that's the correct understanding of the question?
Yes, Maharaj, that is.
Wow, wonderful. What's the main, what motivates us? And what is the main one? It's you know, ultimately it's, of course, we can look at it in different angles, levels of, like a child going through their education at different stages, there will be different motivations as the child matures. So what is the ultimate motivation, of course, in terms of devotional service, is to awaken love of God within our hearts. In the case of chanting the holy names, is to awaken that love of God. So we could say at every thread, that motivation is to serve the instruction of the spiritual master, or spiritual masters, but ultimately it's master, because the spiritual masters are, you could say, are limbs of the Lord's mercy manifesting in this world. So service to the spiritual master, pleasing the spiritual master, following the spiritual master's instruction is the real motivation in everything we do, and particularly in chanting japa. And I don't do it much now, but I used to, or we used to consider that when we chant japa, think like this: your spiritual master, or Prabhupada, whoever it is, pure devotee of the Lord, is sitting right next to you right now. How would you chant? Prabhupada also said we should chant as if this is our final breath. So we're talking on the platform that we're on right now. It is related to the ultimate motivation, but there will be many relative motivations, as you mentioned, but it's really to please the spiritual master, because that will be throughout, even at the highest platform of pure devotional service, that is one's eternal motivation, to please the servant of a servant, to follow their instruction. So the methodology, Srila Prabhupada said when he wrote his constitution for ISKCON, he said the number one is to teach the techniques of spiritual life, to counteract the, the imbalance in society, the very big imbalance, and to bring about proper unity and peace, to teach the technique. So there's a technique also in chanting the holy name given by the spiritual master. So whatever motivation may be there to associate with devotees, to attain freedom from karma, to become pure in heart, to awaken my spiritual relationship with Krishna, whatever it may be, to change the consciousness of the world, etc. Everything is based upon this principle of, without pleasing the spiritual master and the Vaishnavas, the gateway to spiritual, to Shuddhanam, the gateway to love of God is this: it's service to the Vaishnavas, service to the spiritual master. So that's the primary motivation, we could say, and that is evoked also by association of those who have it. In their association, this may become cemented, enforced in our consciousness more and more and more, the importance of serving or pleasing the representative of Krishna. As practically speaking, this is it. And if one doesn't have that motivation, then or doesn't understand that principle, that means we're still covered. There's no humility, there's no meekness there, and it will not please Krishna. Maybe something is there and it will eventually start to sprout. But basically speaking, if we want to the Bhakti Lata to sprout, to grow, to mature, then this is the method of receiving the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of Krishna manifest in the form of the opportunity to serve the devotees, to serve the spiritual master. Anyway, that's again a relationship in spiritual life. That's why it's essential to have these relationships in spiritual life. So we do have that personal interaction through the media of Vaishnavas and Guru with the channel of mercy to Krishna. By pleasing them, one pleases Krishna. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. How much time do we have? We have some more time. There's a question on the line here in English. I don't know if it's relevant to everybody, or if you I don't know if you can see it. I don't know. There's one in Russian at 2:18. I don't know if 18 minutes past 2. I think it's just a repeat of the English, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it must be a repeat of the English, I think. And then there's a question in English from some source, somebody has written. Is there any more questions in Russian? Anybody there? Can you see this question?
Some question is there. So she's saying.
Вопрос из эфира от Натальи. Что нужно делать, чтобы воспевание святого имени Кришны?
What should we do that chanting of Hare Krishna would be eternally?
I didn't catch it. Sorry.
So one devotee from online asking, what should we do to be inspired to chant Hare Krishna eternally?
What can we do to be inspired to chant Hare Krishna eternally? Whoa! Well, we heard that just now. When quality comes, you just can't stop chanting. You can't stop chanting. There's no time for eating and sleeping. Well, this is the same thing, you know. It's as Prabhupada said here, that when our taste for service develops, then gradually by developing a taste, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna Prabhupada also says the first thing is a taste for the service, and because that evokes the mercy of the pure devotees of the Lord and the Lord himself and the anartas. We have no taste, according to Lord Chaitanya, because of offenses, but when we serve the Vaishnavas sincerely, trying to please them, not expecting praise and so on, when we actually have this humility and meekness in our service, then this evokes the mercy of Krishna, and he cleanses our hearts of the dirty things. And when the heart becomes cleansed, naturally the attraction for hearing and chanting automatically awakens. So to speed that up, if you associate with others who've got a taste for chanting, if you want it, of course, if we don't want it, if it's just lip service, that's something else. But if we want, actually sincerely, we want to have a taste so that we can chant constantly, Lord Chaitanya has given us the formula, which we try to kind of talk about a bit today. And in the association of those who've got it, it can be awoken within ourselves. Devotional service is very simple like that. Everything develops by association, even material, attachment, samskaras, impressions, tendencies, everything develops within our heart by association. So similarly, Lord Kapila Dev says, Ajaram, what's that verse? I forgot. Pasangam Ajaram Parasham, that every learned man knows that the greatest entanglement, the living entity, is our attachment or association with the material. When that same attachment is transferred to the pure devotees, It opens the door of liberation. It frees us. It's not a question of stopping, it's a question of redirecting. Satam prasangam mamavirya sangvido bhavanti vitkarna vasayana kataha. In the association of devotees, famous verse of Lord Kapila Dev, one develops an attraction, a taste in the heart, vitkarna, in the ear, vasayana kataha, by hearing and chanting, one gets rasa, taste, and you never want to stop once we get that taste. We just have a taste for other things, so it comes and goes, and like dutifully, mechanically, or whatever it is, hopefully, faithfully, we keep chanting. But the genuine taste of quality, of a shakti, of taste, the ruchi hasn't yet developed because anarthas it is. So we have to clear away those anarthas in our hearts. So we come to the steady nishta stage. And then gradually, when we become steady, without the disturbance of those anarthas, by bhajan, by hearing and chanting and serving and remembering and worshipping and so on and so forth, under the direction of the spiritual master, one can traverse that stage of anartha, removing nivritti, those anarthas, coming to the stage of nishta, and then when one's steady, one's devotional service, gradually the ruchi will start to awaken. It's a spontaneous, natural awakening. It's not something that's just, mechanical, depending on numbers or depending on, so-called application theories. It's the awakening which comes natural, just like when the sun rises, everything becomes clear. So like that. It just takes time. As Prabhupada said, we have to be a little patient. It doesn't happen immediately. Associate with devotees. Very, very, very important. And that means not just sitting around talking about conditional things. It means coming together, how to put Krishna in the center. We have problems. We have, if you want to call it that, we have attachments. How to become attached to devotional service. How to become attached to Krishna. And also spreading that, giving it to others, not just keeping it within our circle. Spreading Krishna, teaching Krishna consciousness, or giving Krishna consciousness. We may not be qualified to teach, but we can at least give what we've got to others. Then Krishna will give you more. Just give whatever we can to others. This is a very important aspect of how one gets Krishna's mercy. Distribute this wonderful, wonderful devotional service to others, going for Harinam, Prasadam distribution, nectar, and chanting and distributing books, and inviting people to the temple, engaging them in acts of devotion, etc. This really pleases Krishna. It really pleases the spiritual master. Take advantages. I don't know what we're going to do here. We got 2 questions. I'm going to take these 2 questions if it's okay there. It says here, different platforms of the human being that can work to improve. I have a question about different platforms of the human being that can work to improve japa and clean the impurities. I think you mentioned something about this. So yeah, well, this is generally speaking, you'll find as we read through even Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, and many other scriptures which take us through a step-by-step process of growth in devotional service. Madhurya Kadambini, if we're going outside to even more developed presentations. But this is the business of the devotees, the spiritual masters, is to guide the person according to their level of maturity. So I may have failed, but I tried to present something which was relevant to all. The details would vary. It's like we read in the Nectar of Devotion. There are general items of devotional service. But Prabhupada even says, maybe Rupa Goswami says, that the details, however, may vary from one spiritual master to another, according to time, place, and circumstances may also be there. But particularly according to the ability of the aspiring devotee to digest the instruction. Like food is useless unless we can digest it. So similarly, instructions are of no use unless they can be digested by the receiver. It's common sense. any common sense. Knowledge is more important how to apply it than knowledge itself. Otherwise, it can be a wrong effect. Immature, if we're immature and we get very mature directions, it will not work. It will be counterproductive. Relevant instructions are very essential. So that's the spiritual master's challenge, you could say, especially when speaking in public, because there will be a wide cross-section of devotees present. And some will see it one way and some will see it another. And mostly, therefore, it's personal or more relevant instruction. If like in school, you have different classes for different levels of maturity. They're all important and they're all part of the same ultimate picture. But they're different because the child is at different stages. So similarly in devotional service for the general public, or newcomers, for those who've taken up the vows, for those who've taken initiation, for those who've taken Brahmin initiation, for those who've been around a long time, the basic foundation always remains, but there will be many and many other instructions when this foundation is strong enough, which will be there. Prabhupada himself said, I would teach you everything, but you're not ready yet. Jesus said the same thing. There are many things I have to teach you, but you can't even follow what I'm doing right now. So it varies according to our level of advancement. And that you have to see. In the association of devotees, these things can be discussed individually as well as in the groups and so on and so forth. But it does take time. Bhagavad Gita is based upon this principle of knowledge, which is appropriate and relevant. 700 verses almost lead up to Sarva Dharma and Parityagya, complete surrender. But there are so many stages and so many steps on the ladder, sometimes called the yoga ladder, taking us back to Godhead, reestablishing a relationship. So the relationship with the instruction of the Vedas, of the spiritual master, of the saintly persons, whatever relevant instruction it is, this is the important factor. That means we're surrendering, whether we know it or not, because we're surrendering to the instruction of Krishna at a certain level. So one's on the path, even though it may seem very, very immature, very simple. It doesn't matter. It's like I was reading, we were reading this morning how Prabhupada was saying that you don't even introduce rules and regulations in the beginning. You just try to get people to chant Hare Krishna. That's all, and take prasadam, nothing else. We're not worried if they're following the regulated principles. It does not matter. That will come later on when the time is right. Sometimes we start, in the wrong way, and we expect too much from new persons or persons at an immature stage. They're not ready for that yet, and therefore they give up. So knowing what is a relevant instruction, which will encourage the living entity to go forward, something achievable, something they can do, and not what they can't do at this point of time. You said that pure chanting develops compassion to the suffering conditioned souls. Ooh, thank you. This is from Mandakini. Well, I think Mandakini is a better person to answer this. I can't believe it. I think she may be joining you in a few days' time. If that's not compassion, I don't know what is. It's, well, what can we say? I mean, I don't have it. So what can I say? I can only just try to speak from some, level of pride, some level of theory, maybe even that's not even good. But yes, well, compassion is the constitutional nature of the soul. Why? Because a pure heart, what is a pure heart? A pure heart means without aparad. And what is aparad? Aparad means that which displeases, aparada, that which is against Radharani. Displeases Radharani. Radharani exists for the pleasure of Krishna. Krishna exists for the pleasure of Radha. A devotee is one who is trying to fulfill Radha's desire to please Krishna. Aparada means that which doesn't achieve that purpose in any way. What is the compassion that Radharani feels? She feels compassion for the living entity, but her ultimate compassion is for Krishna, that his parts and parcels are separated from him. Just imagine if you have a child and your child is separated, just like we have this situation maybe right now in Ukraine or something where many families are separated. You can imagine how they feel. It could be anywhere in the world. It happens everywhere. The child is separated from its parents. How do the parents feel? They feel heartbroken. Or the mother or father, whatever, feel heartbroken. the best thing you can do for them is to reunite them somehow or another in a favorable situation, to reunite them. So this is compassion, to reunite the living entities with Krishna. So when our chanting is pure, then one understands the intention of Radharani, or her expansions, or the expansions of, depending on what rasa one's in, but one understands the intention of Radharani ultimately. And one has no other desire than to fulfill her desire to bring more happiness to Krishna and reconnect the jivas, reconnect everything, not just everything, reconnect everything which belongs to Krishna and is meant for his pleasure, to reconnect everything with Krishna. No matter who or what it is, a devotee wants to see everything connected to Krishna because that's what it's meant to do. Like a child, if you bring that child back to the parents are, their pleasure knows no bounds. That's the only thing which will please them. Same thing for the child ultimately. And you say a similar thing, if you lose your finger, the best thing I can do for you is to find it and put it back on you. It's automatic. If I love you, if I have any interest in pleasing you, that's what I'll do. So Shuddhanam means that literally it's not just some mechanical, attentive chanting, so to speak. It means chanting, as Prabhupada said, with love, chanting with relationship from the heart. A relationship is developed. We realize the name is Krishna. It isn't the name of Krishna, which we may say at this stage, but it's actually Krishna himself. It's so wonderful to have that association. You just want to please your lover, your beloved. You just want to please your beloved. And naturally, this is the way to please him. So compassion for other living entities means really fulfilling Radharani's desire to see everyone back to Godhead. Of course, there'll always be jivas coming and going, but she just wants to increase Krishna's happiness. Krishna could be happier if more jivas were engaged in devotional service. If more jivas were chanting the holy name of Krishna, Krishna will be more pleased. It goes beyond just poor souls. It's actually related to Krishna because it's constitutional. Nature of the spiritual world is everyone is thinking how to please Krishna, not how to please ourselves, but how to please Krishna. Okay, well, our time is up, and there's 2 new messages. I don't know if we have time for them. I think I've just mentioned, in a sense, what is real devotion. I don't know what more I can say. Anyavilasita shunyam jnana kamadhyanavitamana kulena Krishna anushilanam. Many of you know this verse very well. Anushilanam, cultivation. What? Krishna anushilanam. That which pleases Krishna. Devotional service which pleases Krishna is freed of any other motivation whatsoever. It's without any motivation. How to achieve it? We achieve it, as I say, it's the same principle. We achieve it by the mercy of Krishna. And when we get the mercy of the Vaishnavas, by serving the Vaishnavas, they give their mercy. Krishna's pleased. He gives his mercy. He removes all the anarthas from our heart and all the unwanted things. And naturally, in due course of time, more and more, the attraction towards Krishna awakens within our hearts. It's the same principle, just applied in a different way. Thank you very much, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Message from somebody. I don't know if I'm doing good or not. I don't think so. I think I'm really duplicitous, insincere. I mean, I don't know what to say. All these emotions are there. What can I say? We just try to carry on and pray, hope that somebody will show a little bit of mercy to this wretched creature one day, and I may wake up. Doing good. I don't know what to say. Anyway, sometimes we may be just doing a book or 2 or encouraging someone to do so. Maybe there's a little bit of credit along the line somewhere for us. I don't know. Anyway, thank you all very, very much for your kindness and your association. Our time is up for Valmiki Prabhu. And the time will be up soon. We better get ourselves ready. We're all going to be facing that time is up moment. Better get ready. Somebody else, the motivation is, my God, I could die at any moment. That may be the motivation. I better get ready quick. I better start chanting now. Can't wait for that moment. Maybe some people may have that motivation. At one stage, that's the motivation. There's many different levels. But yeah, I better chant now. As if this is my last breath. I think we would chant if we felt like that. We better not wait till it happens, because we might not be able to chant at that moment. We better chant now. Hare Krishna. And the Association of Vaishnavas who were chanting. Thank you all very much. Is that okay? Is that it? Are we finished or not?
Thank you so much. Janananda Maharaja ki
Jai. Nanta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Jai. All glorious to you, all of your wonderful services. My heart goes out to you all, and I pray Prabhupada and all of our acharyas will protect you, guide you, whatever you're doing in devotional service. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Janananda Goswami Maharaja ki Jai.
Don't forget, we're all bunched up together, Prabhupada said, when we're all chanting, whether we're in Russia, or whether we're in China, or whether we're in Australia, or India, or England, or France, or America, or Africa, it doesn't matter where we are. When we're all chanting, we're all together. Let us all chant Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama.
Hare Hare.
Hooray! Hare
Krishna.
Thank you for our translator. Thank you, Valmiki. Thank everybody, whoever's there. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.